Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Over the inaugural federal holiday Juneteenth weekend, we had a pair of statues revealed to commemorate the memory of the late George Floyd. Now, the late George Floyd was murdered last year during the height of the pandemic when police officer Derek Chauvin put his knee on his neck during an arrest for an alleged counterfeit $20 bill. And to commemorate the tragic death of George Floyd, two statues were revealed, one in Brooklyn, New York, which is a bust statue, and a full-figure statue, which was revealed in Newark, New Jersey. Now, when I take a critical examination of these statue reveals on the inaugural federal Juneteenth holiday, they show me how slave-minded many of our black Americans are. Now, the great irony of revealing these statues shows not only how slave-minded black people are, but how they just are so caught up in symbolism, they don't really see how these symbols mean absolutely nothing. Now, I find it interesting that people will go out here and erect a statue for your George Floyd, but they won't go out here and demand that tangible legislation to protect black people's rights get passed by a Congress that they voted for and a Senate that they voted for. Because if it wasn't for black people going out here in large numbers to elect Joe Biden to the presidency, the left would not have the majority that they have, having the executive branch and a majority in the legislative branch. And instead of giving black people the tangible of justice in the George Floyd police reform bill, that bill has languished in the Congress on the, as I think, the congressional floor for over 6 months. So instead of giving black people a tangible of justice and setting a boundary for black people as related to the way they should be treated, no, what people do is go out here and give black people an empty symbolic gesture by erecting a statue of George Floyd in Brooklyn, New York, and in Newark, New Jersey. Now, there already is a George Floyd memorial in front of the Cup Foods where he lost his life in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I don't think there is a need to make any more commemorations of this man's passing. If you really want to honor this man's legacy, I would think people would want to go out here and give other black men and women the tangible of justice by creating a law that punishes rogue police officers for brutalizing black Americans and punishes your race soldiers for terrorizing black people, punishes your beta male suburban commandos for racially profiling and harming black people, and punishes your Karens for racially profiling and attempting to virtually lynch black Americans. We need legislation that is tangible, that establishes a line in the sand, similar to the anti-Asian hate bill that seemed to be easily passed just a couple of months ago, starting this year. I mean, I find it interesting that the majority left Congress can have no problem going out here and passing an anti-Asian hate bill, but when it comes down to the rights of black Americans, they can't seem to get a piece of legislation passed to create tangible justice and create a tangible boundary and tangible policy for black people, and create a policy that would punish your rogue police officers for going out here and brutalizing and violating the rights of black Americans. I find it interesting that even with a leftist president, a leftist Congress, and a leftist Senate majority, they can't get that legislation passed for black Americans. Meanwhile, non-citizens can go out here and they can get themselves tangible resources, and they can get a path to citizenship. And Asians who did not even vote for this president or this Congress, and many were Trump supporters, can get an anti-Asian hate bill passed. But black people who went out in the largest majority and voted for your Joe Biden and the left and practically gave them the state of Georgia to take the Senate, no, your black people, we can't get any tangibles except for an empty symbolic series of statues and an empty symbolic holiday that was ironically meant to celebrate the freedom of slaves after the Civil War. But this holiday ironically shows how much of a slave mind many of your black Americans still have, and how that slave mind is preventing us from making any sort of progress. Because any self-aware brother or sister out here, they are going to want to get tangibles as related to justice, tangible policy that is on paper that holds your rogue police officers, race soldiers, your suburban commandos, and your Karens accountable for their racist behavior. But because we have a lot of dysfunctional black masses who just get excited over shiny trinkets, they get and a free day off. It takes us back to the dark days of the slave plantation, because the slave master, what he would do is he would come out here with a paternalistic view of the slaves, and many of these politicians have the same paternalistic view of black people. And because they have the same paternalistic view of black people, they think just giving you a few trinkets like these George Floyd statues on Juneteenth is enough to sate you for the moment. But this does not solve the problem, because the only way you solve the problem is by giving black people tangibles like tangible policy. Because in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, we have seen multiple black men shot by the police, and none of those men are able to get any sort of justice because there is no tangible policy in place that assures that the people who go out here and shoot a black man will be held accountable. Now, there's another dimension to this whole George Floyd argument that I think people really need to think about, and that is us celebrating these black males out here who have been shot by the police. Now, your George Floyd was not a guy with a very, very solid background, and like your Freddie Gray, he seemed to have come from a criminal past. And this does not really set a good role model for the young boys and girls out here, as I see it, because us erecting statues of former drug dealers and other people with criminal records, that does not really send a good message to the brothers and sisters out here, as I see it. Because yes, this man lost his life in a tragic fashion, and that is something that I don't believe needs to be romanticized in a statue, nor do I believe it's something that needs to have a statue erected towards. I mean, your George Floyd and your Freddie Gray, they were not Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and they did not go out here and do something to empower black people on their own. Things just happened as a result of a tragedy. And again, when you go out here and you reward people who have had criminal backgrounds and go out here and give them statues, that sends a very bad message to our young brothers and sisters, and it reinforces a message that I heard over the years that, yes, what we will do is go out here and we will celebrate a Pookie or a Ray Ray, but a brother coming out of college, we won't do a single thing for. And this, giving George Floyd a statue and giving Freddie Gray a mural, this is the kind of stuff that reinforces in young black children's minds that if I go out here and I die by the police, I will be celebrated. But we don't go out here and celebrate those young brothers and sisters who are out here doing what they need to do and trying to go and live on the straight and narrow path. We don't go out here and celebrate those young brothers and sisters. And that is the ultimate slap in the face to our ancestors who got their freedom on Juneteenth. And that's what makes this whole Juneteenth 2021, the first federal holiday, a complete farce. Here we are with this whole Juneteenth holiday, and it's not about us reflecting on the freedom we have, or even taking a critical look at the way we use our freedom, because a lot of us who are free, we go out here and participate in black on black crime, or we go out here and we're going to use this holiday to go over to these white and non-black businesses that oppress us and racially profile us to go shopping, or we're going to go out here and celebrate the life and the legacy of a guy like George Floyd or a guy like Freddie Gray. And again, that really shows how completely backwards the black community is, because when it comes down to a holiday like Juneteenth, we should be focused on using our freedom to empower ourselves, and we should be out here enriching black-owned businesses and showing that we are so free, we're going to take our power back. Unfortunately, most black people, they just get caught up in symbolism, and they get caught up in the quest for white acceptance, that they don't really think critically about what these symbols mean, because a statue celebrating George Floyd, who is just, again, as I see it, just shows me how Arkham certified many of our black leaders are. Yes, this man died tragically at the hands of police, and yes, this man was seen all over the world, and this really exposed the hypocrisy of the United States. But you just don't erect statues to reward certain people or certain events. I mean, where are the statues for all the young brothers and sisters who go to college? Where is the support for those people? Because if we supported those people, then we would not have issues like, we would not have people out here being Pookies and Ray Rays. And the whole thing is that George Floyd, yes, he died tragically, and they did violate his civil rights, and they did murder him. But we need to go out here and try to help out our best and brightest brothers and sisters, and go out here and celebrate them, because they are out here and we don't really give them any support. And this empty symbolic gesture, as I see it, just completely empty and symbolic, that means nothing at the end of the day, because if we're not out here trying to get the tangible of justice, that statue means absolutely nothing at all. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive SJS Direct fiction, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.